and this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. Please consult with a qualified financial professional for advice specific to your situation. The views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of the podcast producers or sponsors. We make no representations or warranties regarding the accuracy or completeness of the content. Hi, my name is Bella Carrasco, and helping others feel more comfortable about investing brings a huge smile to my face. I pull together my resources to interview experts in each area of the due diligence process and answer how do you know questions when considering your future financial safety. But that wasn't enough for me. As an ex-collegiate soccer player, I know the parallels that athletes have with everyone else. That is, the fact that we all have several identities and the capability to add more skills to our repertoires, including investment knowledge. For these reasons, I also bring on athletes so that we can learn how they became confident in the investment world and learn the tips that got them there. We go deep into questions about many phases of the investment process with the goal of helping you go from practice to game time confidently. This is the How Do You Know podcast. Today, we are learning from Charlie, who was a former MiLB player with the Colorado Rockies, and his journey has evolved from business development in the tech world to speaking coach to now entrepreneur, having founded CLR Connection, which offers leadership performance coaching on mindset, communication, and identity. So, Charlie, thank you for being here.
Pumped, Bella. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for the conversation.
Well, I love our first meeting because we were connected via mutual friend. Then it turned out we were going to be in the same city at the same time and decided to just meet in person. And during that, I was blown away by your experience and mission, and I think many will find inspiration in it. But one thing we didn't discuss was your retirement. So, how did you make the decision to retire? I feel like there's always a lot of different ways that people find their way out of sport and into the next phase.
Yeah, I like to say I didn't get to choose it. And a slow burn is like what I kind of felt like the actual retirement was, because when you are fortunate, and I was fortunate to get a chance to play professional baseball. Once you have the professional piece to it, you realize how much of a business it is, and then that somebody's always coming to take your jersey. So that when you do get hurt or when you are working through an injury, it's not like at the leisure of like, oh, I'll figure it out. Or it's, my senior season where I have other things to do. Like, no, this is your job. When I got hurt, it was more like, okay, do I get surgery now or do I rehab for 2 years? Then does the organization, like, how do they get involved? So when I say like I got hurt and rehab for almost 20 months through the process before I was let go. So forced retirement that almost happened 2 years before I even realized that I was retiring. I rehabbed for just as long as I actually played, which is part of my whole story.
Right. It's kind of in a similar sense for me. It's like you're growing up in college and club and in high school, you're used to being the best one. And then all of a sudden you're not there anymore. And it's kind of like, okay, I have to fight for my spot every single day. It's a totally different mentality and level. And then aside from that, moving more to the business side of things, you have to think about what your future self is going to look like because you can't play sport the rest of your life. And that's something that I really am very passionate about. You have to think about your life post play while you were playing. And I know that we've spoken before. You said that you weren't one of those players that thought about what your income would look like after you were done playing. And a lot of us just think we're very invincible and can continue playing for a long time. But then you hear stories like yours where an injury took you out before you thought you would. Maybe it's another player for some people. So thinking about life during play is actually very important. And so if you could go back to your younger self, is there any piece of advice that you would give yourself or your teammates about what life post play would look like?
Yeah, that's a layered question. Two things come to mind. First, advice of like, what would I tell myself while I'm playing in regards to life after? I would actually tell myself to enjoy the now even more. That's the first thing I'd probably tell myself. Yes, I'm hunting, I'm playing, I'm seeking to be a Major League Baseball player. And I'm also in these cities with teammates and people I may never talk to again, where I might have a moment where I can just sit and be in the moment a little bit more. You hear an athlete talk about it. I was watching the captain documentary with Derek Jeter, and he talks about that. Like, I wish I would have enjoyed it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I did, would I have been in the position as the champion that I was? So it's an interesting ping pong battle you might play. So I would tell
Right.
myself that enjoy it a little bit more. And then when it comes to thinking about beyond sport or beyond like what happens next, I would have probably restructured my off seasons. Not that playing Call of Duty and working out at 10 p.m. wasn't fun, but I probably would have invested in programs or resources that were positioning me to be in more of a transitional period when it was time. But again, at that time, did those resources exist? Because as you're playing, an organization is not going to pay you to go figure out what's next. They're going to pay you to play now.
Yeah, that's true. Right. So maybe it would be like finding mentorship or a lot of you seeking out YouTube videos or I guess a lot of self-starting education.
Especially now digitally, because when I played, there
Yeah.
wasn't that. And that's
Yeah,
what
true.
it wasn't the case, right? Like online digital media didn't exist. So that's the first thing I tell people now. I go, you as an athlete just had 20 plus years of 5 to 6 coaches all over you, helping you with every single thing possible. Well, now your new starting five or your new coaching staff needs to be different. So
Hmm.
go find those people, those mentors outside of your world of sport. Go find that person who's operating a business. Go find that quirky person who's a creative writer. Go find these different people that are now going to be your new coaching staff in your life beyond sport. That's what I tell people to do now. That's what I wish I would have done then.
You're right, right. I know it's not as sexy of Call of Duty and killing the zombies and things like that, but there's an opportunity cost and it's like, okay, the cost of playing Call of Duty is that I'm not going to be financially prepared after sport. So which one's more important to you? And I know finding mentors, asking for help, it can be uncomfortable, and so you would rather just do something fun. But I do encourage people to just take the first step. You never know what it can lead to in the next one and then the next one and the next one.
Exactly. And it still is the most important thing. And it still is probably one of the biggest hurdles. And there's programs, as you know, we've talked about, right? There's multiple programs. I mean, PAC's one of them, where it's like
Right,
they're identifying it now as something to be able to do in the future. Yet at the same time, we still, as an athlete, struggle with asking for help.
right,
That's what these programs exist for. So now I'm like, great, find as many of those programs and go lock in with them. They didn't
right.
exist 15 years ago. Wow, it's been 15 years.
We won't put the timestamp on it, but no, in what I've found too, talking to a lot of pack players or players in general, is growing up, money wasn't really a topic that was discussed, but yet you can still get very savvy and educated on it. So to your point, maybe these resources weren't available back then, but guess what? They are today. Don't make excuses. Like you can actually get it done, and I would argue that it's probably a really important priority. So just taking everything that we've just kind of discussed, what is a good first step for someone who's wanting to learn more?
Mm. Who wants to learn more about money, financial, just development outside? I think the first step is you have to accept the actual current moment of, okay, I am in a transitional period.
Hmm.
Do I need to, one, this is when it comes to the transition, have I celebrated and acknowledged my career? Have I celebrated and acknowledged my career? Most of the time I ask this question, the answer is no. Because what people say, athletes say, is, oh no, I've mourned my career. What do I need to be celebrating? The fact that I lost, the fact that I got released, the fact that I didn't win the championship? No, I mourn it. I don't talk about it. I dismiss it.
Hmm.
Flip that. I mean, I literally had a conversation with a teammate who played 11 years in the minor leagues. Minor leagues, 11 years. Now he's a coach for one of the
Yeah.
top college programs in the nation. I just asked him, "Did you celebrate?" He's like, "No." Can you imagine not celebrating your career or acknowledging something that such a small percentage of humans get to do? Yet
Right.
you have a retirement party right after working a job that you made
Yeah.
for 4 years. Hell no. So step one is accept, and then go celebrate with people you love if you can.
Yep.
And then from there, it's finding that new starting five. And on the financial front, it's having conversations with people like yourself. Or for me, it's finding somebody who understands and kind of speaks my language or maybe has my background. Thankfully, the person that I'm working with now, former minor league baseball player, has his own firm, also has 7 kids. Shout out, Matt. 7. So when it comes to like setting up my family and the portfolio of what I'm trying to build, I'm gonna go ahead and talk to my guy.
Hmm.
Reconstructing Wealth, I think, is his company name, and he's a huge influence in how he's shows up in the game of finances and trying to make it relatable for someone like me who doesn't know.
Right.
But that
Right.
took me time to find, and I wish I would have looked for that sooner.
I want to bold, highlight, put an exclamation point by your first response, which was celebrate your career, because we've heard that story so many times of finding an identity after sport because you've been in that identity for so long that you don't know who you are without it. And I think that's an amazing first step. That's never even crossed my mind, but you're so right. If you're in a regular, what we call quote unquote regular W-2 job, you do celebrate retirement and things like that. So why wouldn't that be the same case for sport? So just it's almost like reframing the concept, which I think is brilliant.
Yes, yes. I mean, if you will play with me for a second, have you?
I have not. No, I'm guilty of it. And neither has my sister, who is now trying to decide what to do next in her life, too. And I see the struggle with her a lot. Me, it's been like over a decade. So I'm like, I don't even remember what that feels like. But for her, it's so real. It crushes my heart. And so I can definitely feel that pain.
And you would be someone that she loves, right? So
Hmm.
like, there's one thing to acknowledge it, and then there's another one to celebrate it, and then that added piece is something that I was not told that I think I was able to do, and that is with people I love, right? So celebrate the closing of this chapter as much as you can. Find a way to close it on your own terms. Tough, even for surgery, but once you can, great. Now, how are you celebrating in that moment? And when you look back at it, you're like, man, most of the relationships and most of the memories that I have, a lot of the time, they're not tied to the game at all. They're tied to your teammates, the coaches, and your family that you love that was there to root you on.
Yeah,
So
right.
who do you celebrate with? Them.
And I know it's easier said than done, but kind of what you were saying, like just play with us for a little bit. Like try the exercise, see what happens from it.
Whether it's they used to be a MySpace post, right? Maybe it's a Facebook post, right? Like it's usually like, oh, like let me announce it. Go have a
Hmm.
dinner, favorite spot. Go reach out to your boys, right, or to your teammates, right, right, the girls that you play with, the women that you played with. Say, hey, I'm coming to town. I just want to like have a moment to, dare I say, celebrate me and my career, which in turn is likely celebrating the people that are sitting there at the table. That's how I would do
Yeah,
it.
right.
I'm
Yep,
celebrating me through celebrating you and the relationships that this game has given me.
right.
It's beautiful.
Very beautiful. And I would assume that a lot, majority, do not think that way. So just close the chapter, celebrate, open a new chapter. Let's see how that feels.
Yeah, I like it.
But something else you said too kind of sparked a different thought of you said it took a long time for you to find that. And I think in this world specifically, we are so used to instant gratification that we feel discouraged when we don't find what we're looking for in the next second, hour, minute, whatever it may be. So that's something else I just wanted to highlight because it can take a lot longer than you want. But if you continue to plant the seeds, you'd be surprised what everything will grow into. Again, it's just taking the first step, which will lead to the next one, the next one, the next one, and if your journey veers off, it's better than staying at the starting line because you're at least one step closer.
That's it. This is the game. One step. And that may be the hardest one, but if it is truly the start that actually prohibits people from doing it, then find your people or coaches to get you off the starting line, period.
Right. And moving to you specifically, do you work with a financial advisor or how do you think about your portfolio makeup investment wise?
Yes. This is where Matt, shout out Matt again, dipping the toe into the portfolio world of like, what do we want to invest in has
Hmm.
been probably the last 6 months to a year where we've really started to contemplate, right? Is it short-term rental? Is it long-term? Like actually going into looking in different maybe commercial areas. This is all new language for me. I'm learning as we are talking right now with the girls. I have 3 little girls. Here, it's really making me proactively think ahead of what do I want this portfolio to shake out as? Great, we have our home now. What's that next investment? Is it short term, or is it setting ourselves up to where when the girls do go to college, or they do take, we can buy a property for them and then do the duplex thing. All of this is now setting ourselves up to where we're figuring out what the strategy looks like. And thankfully, because of someone like Matt, we're starting to really understand the basics and fundamentals of it, as opposed to just throwing 100K at something or throwing 50K at something.
Right.
Where idea. But we're learning in the
Yeah.
moment, like as we speak.
Right. And everyone's situation looks so different. So something that might work for you, like you mentioned, you have 3 girls and you have to think about them and what their future is going to look like. Someone else might not be in the cards for them. And so they can take on a little bit more risk or do a little bit of a different strategy too. But again, it's just reaching out to the people that are knowledgeable in that area, looking up YouTube videos or however you like to absorb knowledge and just getting savvy on it. And like you said, just continue to learn and that will hopefully give you what you're looking for.
You know, absolutely. And it's funny, we didn't talk about this, but it's probably part of the connection that we have was when I did one of my first keynotes at an RIA. It was like an investment conference, which is where I think I met Marissa, or indirectly through there. The whole concept around due diligence was around investing, right, in portfolios in all of these different ways, whether it's gold, whether it's land, whether it's
Hmm.
short term, all the portfolios, you name it, everything was there. And here I am, not really having the knowledge quite yet, but realizing and hearing what other people are doing. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to go up here and talk about investing in yourself as the most important one. And now that I have a business, when you say if I were to invest, I'm like, oh, I would invest back into myself, back
Right.
into my business, because that's what I actually need to invest in. And funny enough, my friend Matt also suggests the same thing. He's like, have you thought about what investing in yourself actually looks like?
Yep. That is the missing piece sometimes that's like in its own little island that we forget about because usually when you're talking to someone you think about, oh yeah, I'm investing in a stock or a bond. But if you look at the ultra high net worth or high net worth families, they're investing in alternatives. They're investing in real estate, they're investing in gold and all these other different asset classes you didn't even know existed. But again, that's where I'm also a strong believer in building a roadmap for yourself, building your why because if you're getting from Florida to California, if you just try to go without a map, you're probably going to take a lot longer to get there than you otherwise would if you just had a plan. So I think it's a really good comparison to investing as well. Just figure out what that plan looks like for you, where you want to be in 5, 10, 15 plus years, and then from there, hopefully, it becomes more clear what you should be dedicating your time to in terms of what different investment opportunity you should be pouring into more.
Yes, yes. And finding people like yourself that can help you map out that process.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's relatable and is a plan, which we know as athletes, what do we like? We like plans. We like targets.
Yes.
We like numbers. We like goals.
Yeah.
Yes, use that language. Let's get it there through that, through obviously programs and individuals like yourself.
And through that, it obviously takes talking and speaking eloquently to people. You've been a speaking coach for several years, but like we mentioned earlier, you started in business development. Can you tell us what CLR is and why you decided to go this route?
Yes. So CLR, it happened organically. I had no idea that I was going to found or start my own coaching and training business, especially in the world of communication and leadership development. I think what happened was after my time in business development, working in software, selling programs and platforms and technology, the most fulfillment I had was walking and talking with my teammates, my
Hmm.
colleagues, my bosses, and like talking through the playbook. Hey, what worked on that phone call? What didn't? How are we building up this account? How are we coaching each other through this? And I'm like, man, this short term, like immediate impact, this is fun. Selling software that takes 9 months to be implemented, this isn't calling me right now. So I think it happened for me, which then took me into working at a leadership development firm in the communication space where I was like, wait a second. If I can blend this world of communication and leadership development and this background in performance from sport, maybe there's an intersection. And that's where the origin of CLR kind of started, where I was like, let me create my own coaching and training business, helping athletes, helping individuals, helping executives in and around Silicon Valley, but not just in the Valley, just in business, transfer those sport skills into their enterprises, into their businesses, and into their organizations. And storytelling, communication is one of the most important things that athletes understand when it comes to building championships and building teams, like the ability to communicate. So that's a lot of what I do.
Yeah, it's so brilliant. And when you were talking, it reminded me of watching film. Like the first time you see yourself, you're like embarrassed, want to like go in the corner. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. What was I thinking? But it's necessary for the process. It's necessary to improve and to make sure you're a better player, speaker, whatever it is after. So it's a necessary evil, unfortunately.
That is it, right? That's the speaking piece. It's a necessary evil.
Yeah.
And as an athlete, we understand what happens when we look at game tape.
Hmm.
So I found myself working at this other communications firm, right? S&P. I love my time there. I would find myself in these rooms with the Googles of the world and working with executives on the nuance of their communication. And then they would ask questions like, hey, how do you prepare for a big keynote? Like, oh, the same way I would for a big game. They're like, what do you mean, big game? I'm like, yeah, you go to the field, you get your focal points, you run through the vision as if I were playing. Now all of a sudden I found myself like teaching presentation skills and storytelling skills through this lens of sport.
Yeah.
And then I have my own managers, bosses, and other people that are facilitating with me like, hey, that's like a thing. You should think about how to make that part of what you do. And I'm like, huh, introducing the sport of speaking. That makes sense. If speaking is a sport, then how are we
Right.
training like we don't.
It's so relatable to a lot of people. Like you don't have to play sport to enjoy sport. And I think even if you are a very big sports fanatic, you still understand a lot of those concepts. And so, like you were alluding to earlier, just being able to relate it back to something that someone knows makes it that much more powerful to implement. So I know
Yes.
for me myself, I think it's been really great talking to you because some of these concepts just feel like a big light bulb just simply because you related it back to sport. So I have no doubt that that's the same for others. In your experience, what's a common mistake that you see people making when it comes to speaking?
When it comes to speaking, a common mistake,
Yes.
apologizing.
Mm,
Sorry, no, that's not what I meant, right? They'll like catch themselves because they realize it wasn't something that they wanted to say. When in reality, the audience, the people who are in front of you, have no idea what you were going to say. So I think when it comes to communicating or having the confidence to just continue and let it rip, as they say, the audience doesn't know what you're there to talk about. You take a deep breath, you raise your volume, they don't know. When you apologize, they know. So that's
yeah,
the
so
first
true.
one. That's the first one. The second one is just, and again, it's different flavors for different folks, is rehearsing too much. As an athlete, what do we like? We like to prepare.
Hmm.
And I think there's something about when it comes to speaking, when you find yourself in a conversational kind of flow, where I know the main talking points, the main takeaways, the main thesis of what I'm there to talk about. But when I find myself over rehearsing and saying, oh, I want to use this word here, then it can feel robotic. And I think as a speaker, there's beauty when your raw emotion and the pause comes out naturally, that the audience says, oh, great, this isn't as rehearsed. I try to remind myself of that, because going back to that keynote that I did at that investment conference, I'm trying to use words like different portfolios and investment jargon to speak to the audience. And then I caught myself thinking live about the word I was trying to insert.
Mm-hmm.
Take a deep breath. If you're going to go out in the way that you want to go out. And that's not using language and stuff that you do not understand. What happens? People see your authentic self. They understand that you are up there not rehearsing. You are up there just being and telling your story. And damn it,
Yeah.
that is what we want. We don't want robots.
Right.
You got enough now.
I know. In a weird way, it almost feels like you are more connected with the audience in that way. And I remember for me, I would just want to spit everything out super 2x speed, like how I listen to my podcasts.
Yeah.
And I remember a speaking coach was like, she recorded me. I paused for what I felt like was forever. But then when we listened back to it, she was like, "So how long did that pause feel after you listened back to it?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that wasn't that long." She was like, "Exactly. So it's okay to pause. It's okay to take a deep breath. Just keep on keeping on.
Exactly. And do not apologize.
Do not apologize." What is one tool people can use right now to help improve their storytelling?
What is one tool they can use to help their storytelling? Start with the end in mind.
Mm.
So now, especially in business, if you only have a 30-second window or 90-second window and you have to pitch, tell a story about something that's important for your stakeholder or the person to hear it, tell them where you're going, because we're not paying for the movie. Tell us why we need to listen. Like on that same end, if I am developing a keynote or a sales pitch, right, the way you would kick off with an agenda or a keynote, again, I try to do this for myself. Or maybe there's a quote or there's some introspective kickoff. And then you can go into, here's where we're going today. Now, it doesn't have to be on the agenda today. We have A, B, C. Please don't do that. You can't let them know, right? If redefining what winning looks like, or for me, if we're talking about what performing through presence looks like, I'm going to walk you through 4 different ways in which we can do this based on the story that I just told. Great. Now you're letting them know, here's where we're going to end. You're giving them something. Same thing with business. Tell us the answer, start with the end in mind, and then walk us back. Don't be that uncle or person who's just blabbing. Because we have those uncles. I might be that uncle time to time.
Yeah. So check yourself right quick.
Start with the end in
It
mind.
also, yeah, it also helps with keeping the audience engaged, because if they know what to hear for or look out for, then they're like, ah, that's why you're talking about that right now. And then it might help them implement it better.
Yes. One of my favorite lines from a previous mentor in that organization I work with is, people don't listen ever. Yeah. Like, we are distracted more than we have ever been. Phones, text, screens, left, right. Kids might run in here, truly. Then you have to remind and keep telling them this is where we're at, which is why in the business context, I also like starting with it. Here's where we're going. And then maybe even asking, what is the most important thing that you want to focus on? What if they tell you something, or they're like, oh, I'm really excited to hear about what creativity means in your world. Great. Now I know, as the person who's leading that talk, oh, this audience, they want to get into the creative freedom and play. They want to talk about that. I'm going to spend more time and alter my talk based on that. You
Right.
can't do that if you rehearse a script.
Yeah, so true. And my last question before we hit the fire round is just, you've been in the room with so many higher ups and Google and all these incredible companies. What would you say is the most compelling thing you've learned from them?
Compelling. thing from one of the leaders in kind of the Googles of the world. As much as everything can roll up to a hard skill, problems typically arise when it comes to the soft skills. Any leadership problem, any big fire that needs to be put out is likely a lack of communication.
Mm,
And
yeah.
the more leaders invest in communication skills and developing their ability to communicate and be clear, the better that organization's running. And by organization, I mean team, right? Like it all rolls up to it. I can't tell you how many product leaders that I've been able to be fortunate to be around who they're on that next level of I'm gonna get that next promotion. And I'll say, what's the differentiator? Like, I really got to work on my soft skills. I'm like, that's odd. You spent 15 years not thinking about that. Now all of a sudden, that is the last thing you need to do. What if we actually just reverse engineered that and put the training of the soft skills at the front end of our development while we're learning all the hard skills? We don't do it.
And it extends even beyond business relationships. It's romantic relationships, relationships with your family, your kids. It all stems from communication. So, doesn't hurt.
Yeah. And if the most innovative companies in the world are telling us that, then why aren't we at least thinking about it? Or they're trying to create AI models around that. And the one thing that they still are like, it's the language models and it's the ability to look in your eyes and say, Bella, how are you? Comma,
Hmm.
and to listen to you. That's the one thing they can't figure out. Odd.
Yeah,
Odd.
exactly. Like you said earlier, we are not robots. We need that human connection as much as we try to replace it.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, let's end with a quick three question fire round. First one will be, what is your favorite restaurant?
The first one that comes to mind is probably this place called Wood Tavern in Oakland. It's like one of the spots where if we do have a anniversary dinner or a celebratory dinner, the menu's curated, it's small, it's lively. I usually end up getting some sort of steak, a nice
Yeah.
little curry, but like the menu evolves, and it's just the one that kind of stood out for me when
Yeah.
I was thinking about like the current moment. And it's local, so it's in Oakland.
Right, right. Well, next time I'm on the West Coast, I know where I'm
Yes,
going.
yes.
Second question, what is your favorite way to stay up to date on the news?
Deep sigh, deep sigh. I am guilty of not watching it on TV. I let the news come to me. I don't proactively seek it. So usually what happens is it's either a notification on my phone, I'm on a LinkedIn or my
Hmm.
email, something like on the New York Times or the Post, something like that will come across and I will read said news. And then I will then have conversations with humans that probably do stay up the news and have different perspectives. And that's usually how I kind of triage my media news consumption.
That's great. I think the key word there is perspective. There are two sides to every story, so how about you get educated on all of it before forming your own opinion?
Yes. 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 Perspective, that little thing.
Last question, and we're gonna tweak it a little bit since we kind of already alluded to it in a way, but if one of your little girls ran into the room right now, said, "Daddy, I found $1 million," how would you invest it? And it can't be into your own business.
Great tweak because that was my answer. Bravo. I'd have to say some form. Okay, $1 million, probably dirt.
Yeah.
And by dirt, as I've recently learned through one of the pack events, is
Hmm.
finding that space where dirt to build real estate on, or that short-term commercial. I would probably look because 1 million would give me enough to be able to do that. I'd probably look at different areas and regions where there may be some businesses, there may be some housing that goes
Yep.
up. That land is mine.
Yep. Love it.
I would buy some dirt.
Who doesn't want some dirt?
I like it.
Well, Charlie, thank you so much for being here today. Why and how should people reach out to you?
Reach out to me. I'm across all the social channels. So Instagram, Charles L. Ruiz, LinkedIn, obviously I'm fairly active there on the corporate side. And I think you said why. If you're looking to tell your story, and if you're a leader, you have one, and you want to do it with conviction and confidence, that's the core of what I feel like I'm called to do. And if you're training your communication like a sport, then who's helping you? I'm hoping that I can do that.
Perfect. Well, I hope people realize the importance of storytelling and the importance of a lot of different topics that we discussed today. So thank you again, and until next time, adios.
This was so much fun. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
If you are ever interested in a recap with the main points discussed throughout the podcast episode, check out the Q&A series because we dig deeper into the concepts discussed, and you can follow along on YouTube if that's preferred. If you find any value in this show and want to support it, it would be awesome if you texted someone right now about it. You can say you have a podcast recommendation that you think they should listen to, and then ask them to get back to you with their thoughts. Anything helps, and I really rely on the amazing investors like you to spread the word. Thank you so much for listening, and please feel free to reach out at any time.